सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
Barerupa Bhakti presents The Gift of Desperation, a Bhakti recovery podcast. This is a 12-step based Bhakti-oriented space. Here we share our experience, strength, and hope in the spirit of recovery from addictions and associated behaviors. Welcome. Oh, look who it is. It's Babalabala. It's Bobbie Machon.
Just sounds so much fancier than Marchand.
Yeah, it does. But you are fancy. You're fancy. You're one of my favorite people on earth, I have to say.
Likewise.
And I'd like everyone to know you and your story and who you are, what you do, and why I've asked you on a recovery, Bhakti recovery podcast. Bobbie is an amazing yoga teacher. I work together with her on my retreats. She works together with Raghunath and at their yoga teacher trainings in India. And she is a cancer survivor and a recovering codependent, and an all-around wonderful, compassionate, beautiful person. So welcome, Bobbie. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Love
to be here. Honored.
So she's also you're also a coach.
Yeah.
Are you? So why don't you tell me a little bit about? Let's start a little bit with. I mean, I know your whole cancer journey was very much intertwined with your codependence, and there were a lot of realizations through that journey of recovery, and you're just so strong, and it's such an inspiring story. So why don't we start there? What was your life like, and what happened when you got that diagnosis?
Oh my gosh.
We're going deep, Bobbie.
Are you getting feedback?
No, but talk into the mic a little bit more.
Okay. I'm getting feedback.
You are. So here we are again. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. So so let's see if you have any feedback now.
Let me see.
Is there any feedback?
No.
No? Okay,
It's
great.
gone. All right. Cool. Okay, so I've been around the cancer track twice. And my first time was in 2011. And I'm a BRCA1 gene carrier, so I don't want to be like, oh, it was only a matter of time before it happened to me. But as history has a tendency to repeat itself, as we know, in so many different circles, I was at the age where both my mom and my aunt were also diagnosed with cancer, which is the sweet old age of, I was 34. My aunt was 35. Sorry, my aunt was 33 and my mom was 35. So it was right in the pocket of time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have to say that my life 2 weeks before diagnosis was probably the best it had ever been in my adult life up until that point. I was about to go on a tour in Europe with the dance company I was dancing with. I had just helped a dear friend open a restaurant to which I was the pastry cook. I had a wonderful boyfriend, a great apartment, amazing friends. And I remember the restaurant had just opened and I was sitting at a table with like 12 people. And I was sitting on one side, my dance director was at the other, and another friend was at the other side of me. And I remember looking at both of them and saying, it does not get better. This is everything I've ever wanted, is right here. And dun, dun, dun. And then, 2 weeks later, I am going for my first mammogram because I felt a lump and thought I should go get it looked at. And then the next day I'm having a biopsy. And then the next day I'm leaving to go on this tour in Europe. And as I'm boarding my plane, like I'm standing in line to board my plane, and I get a call from Sloan Kettering telling me that the test was positive. So I'm standing in the middle of an airport. I mean, of course I had the inkling that it's going to be positive, but I think, the mind does so much to protect us. Like, you're going to be fine. Everything's going to be cool. Da, 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 da.
Sure.
And, it really was like my knees were cut out from underneath me in the middle of LaGuardia Airport.
Were you at this time in your life, were you like at all God conscious?
Oh,
or?
no.
Okay.
Like, I definitely fell into that category of feeling as though I connected deeply with forces,
Mhm.
beyond, that were greater than us,
Yes.
the universe. I definitely felt like, my grandmother had died when I was 17. I always felt like she was with me, that sort of thing. So I like believed in things that we believe in Bhakti, but I would never at that
Like you
point.
never had the necessity or felt the necessity to kind of define that. It was just there and it was fine.
Well, it wasn't that I didn't have the necessity. I had the no.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh, oh,
Mm,
you had the no. Okay, I get
I
it.
had
I did
the
too.
I
I
had
did
the
too.
no. Uh-uh. That tracks back to when, my dad grew up Catholic, and I was always fascinated by like how much my grandma went to church. And she used to take me, and I was
Mm.
little, and I wasn't raised Catholic, so I was like the only kid who sat in the pew during communion, and I felt like super left out. I was like, I want, and my grandma's like, trust me, you don't want one of those. She's like, honey, they're not good. Okay. I'll give you a peanut butter cookie when we get home. Okay. But I was always fascinated by like the reverence and the silence and that space,
Mm.
like the bigness of mass,
Yes. The
you know.
the majesticness. Is that a word?
Oh,
Majesticness.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
majesty of it. Yes, of
It was
course.
it was beautiful. And like I had like a longing for it because, I felt like I didn't belong because I
Mm.
couldn't, right? So, but I had this sort of belief, like I wouldn't say I had a belief, but I definitely didn't not believe in
Right.
God when I was
Right.
little.
Right.
I always have had like a spiritual,
Sure.
not whimsy, I guess, as a child, right? Like that sort of childlike whimsy or connection.
Yeah, sure.
But then when my mom got diagnosed with cancer when I was 9, I was like,
What's going on?
mm-mm,
Yeah. Mm.
mm, mm-mm. I remember like friends of my parents who had like become like born again Christians and stuff, like they would say things like, well, God loves you. And I'd be like, really? Well, if God loves me, why is my mom have cancer then? Why is my
Yeah.
mom pulling her hair out in handfuls and having like to go through, like, I remember just being mad. So that tracked
Sure.
through my whole life up until that point where I was just like, I believe in that, but I will never name it.
So you were just a, so let me make this clear just so that everyone knows, because I know you and you know that I know you and we know each
Yeah.
other and we're very good friends. You
Yeah.
were a ballerina
Yes.
and
Mhm.
you, so you were with this dance company and, just to be clear, it wasn't, it was just, you were very trained in ballet,
Yeah.
very disciplined in that.
Yeah.
And so you're ready to go to Europe. You get the
Yes.
call.
I get the
You're
call.
positive.
I'm
And
positive.
then,
And then I flip
of
out
course.
in the airport. I remember like standing like hysterical. And I'm on my phone and I'm shaking and crying. And this woman comes up to me with like a Starbucks napkin and this look on her face of like, here,
That's
like,
terrible.
all I can do for you is give you a
A Starbucks
nasty
napkin.
napkin to blot your tears off. And then,
Did you go to Europe?
yeah, I said to the doctor, what am I going to do? She said, I want you to get on that plane and I want you to dance your heart out.
Oh.
Nothing's going to change in 2 weeks. I want you to go there and do it. I said, okay. So I hung up the phone and I called my parents. And of course, it's like, you know, pandemonium with my dad and I. My mom just goes into her like, okay,
Her
okay.
function mode.
Her function mode. Okay, we got it. I got it.
Mm.
Like we've had cancer so many times in my family that like I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be cute. Like the oncologist is a family friend at this point. He married one of my mom's. He married one of my mom's best friends. Like you can't make this shit up. Like,
But you know what? You know what, Bobbie? The thing is about you, what I love about you, what I love and endear and so hold dear to my heart is that through everything you can still laugh.
oh, there was. I mean, like I'm sure you have these moments too, where you're like,
Oh my God, totally.
what? Like, I have two choices and I'm probably going to take them both. I'm going to cry for a second and then I'm going to laugh because like,
What else can you do?
what else can I do? And
right.
like, you know, finding the humorous coincidences and things of like, okay, here we go. And like my mom, you know, my dad and I are crying and my mom's like, okay, you two, you got to pull it together. All right, you're going to get, Bobbie, you're going to get on the plane. I'm going to call Michael. By the time you get to I was taking a connecting flight. By the time you get to your first connection, I'll probably have an appointment for you. Call me back when you get there. Okay. So then I had to get on a plane alone.
Why? Was no one in your dance company with you?
No, they were all taking different flights. We all like flew separately. So I flew the first leg alone.
Oh no.
But you know what? It was okay. Because I had a chance to like sit and freak out, but sit and have that like and freak out. But it was really like the first time that I really interfaced with that, like what we talk about in Bhakti of that like destitution moment of like, my life is about to be ripped out from under me.
Everything going well, everything going perfect, great boyfriend, great apartment.
All the things, and then reversal.
Did you have your daughter at this point?
No, this is 20. So
okay.
Yeah, so I went, you know, the fast forward version of this is I went to Europe. I didn't tell anybody except my directors that this was happening because I didn't want like the right. And plus, I hadn't figured out that I didn't need to make having cancer okay for everybody else yet. Peace.
Huh.
Right.
That's a deeply rooted in realizations of codependency right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't know that. So I, was definitely racking my brain of like, how am I going to present this so that people that I love
okay with it
aren't going to like go off the deep end or like you have, you say the word cancer, it definitely, it's big. It's a really big thing, right? It's a major life event.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I didn't tell anybody until after we were done all our performances, came home, in the meantime, my mom said, you arrive home on the 6th of June, your appointment is, or maybe it was before that, doesn't matter. Right. I basically had a week when I came home to pack up my apartment, to prep, because that was, I needed to control. I needed to control my work environment by prepping out, like, I mean, major containers of biscotti and cookie dough in the freezer. And like, I didn't need to do that. but I felt so out of control that like my codependency was like, okay, I'm just going to make this as easy as possible for everybody. I'm going to write you all prep lists and make sure everybody has the recipes for everything. And a friend of mine who was the sous chef had lymphoma, and he said, you need to step away from the station.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Cookie dough is going to be the furthest thing from your mind. And trust me, we know how to make cookies. Your job is to pack up right now and go home and go get this done. We got it. And I was like, no, no, no. But like, and he's like, you need to stop controlling. You need to go. And he like basically turned me around and pushed me out of the kitchen. Like
What a pivotal, you know, I know that you didn't discover, you know, the codependent tendencies until later, but when looking back on this now and knowing you, how many conversations we've had around this kind of thing, you know, that is, you know, thinking of other people's welfare, but then also having that exercise as control as well. And this is, some people don't understand that codependency is all about control.
It is. It was totally about control. I wanted them to be taken care of. I also, like, my ego wasn't ready to relinquish my duty.
Of course.
Role that
you need to have them need you.
Absolutely. And
if they don't, and if they can do it themselves, then like, no, you're going to take Bobbie will take care of it. Bobbie will take care of it. She's, you know, none of you are going to be inconvenienced by my cancer.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
In a nutshell. Yeah.
You know, also like, I also was getting so much validation at that. Like, this was like this hot new restaurant and all the food was great. People loved the desserts. And now I'm about to leave to go, like, you know, have cancer and like
go and have cancer.
They're gonna go have cancer and they're gonna have, you know, dessert I didn't make. Where's the validation? I'm about to be like chronically invalidated for months. You know,
I love you. Oh my God.
like, no.
You know, the funny thing is, sometimes I think with that kind of like thing, it's almost Jewish. It's like, no, honey, you go have the dessert and I'll go have cancer.
That's right. I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to go. I'm sorry. Now I'm culturally appropriating. I'm so sorry. I'm not Jewish. So now I'm going to I'm going to talk in a Canadian accent now, because that's
you're definitely one of the most Jewish chicksas I've ever met in my life. You've been around a lot of Jews.
Been around a lot of Jews. It's very true. Yeah. So I went home. Fast forward, I you know, slid right into the hospital system because it was all set up for me. It was just like bing, 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 bing.
Thank God in Canada, you got that, you know.
I mean, also, like, it definitely helps to have family friends in high places who happen to be, you know, the way that we all have GPs, family. In Canada, we call them family doctors. Like, we have a family oncologist.
Right. Fantastic.
You know? So, you know, I had surgery, then I needed chemo, and that's quite a ego blow. And
so did you have surgery just taking out the
lump at that time?
The lump? Okay.
I had a lumpectomy at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, a lumpectomy.
Was there only one?
Yep, there was one.
Okay.
It was a nasty little tumor, according to my oncologist. So then I had 8 rounds of chemotherapy and 35 blasts of radiation. And while all that was going on, there was a lovely little yoga studio that opened in my parents' tiny little town. And I had practiced yoga before, but more as like a cross-training thing to like level myself out as a dancer, because, you know, in the dance world, though, we do things on both sides, like you do in like an asana class, in a choreographic realm setting. You do what the choreographer says, right? So there is a lot of, and then you rehearse that choreography over and over and over again, so you end up getting, you know, overuse patterning developing.
Right.
So you know, and we'll just keep doing it over and over and over again because we want the validation and the approval and all of that. Though my dance directors are the most incredible women, because all of the training that I had, first of all, I wouldn't have never got to New York City if I hadn't had, ballet militia for
Ballet
college.
militia. Yeah.
Right? Which was do it.
Well,
And-
you're not getting out of this interview without doing an imitation of one of your dance teachers,
Oh
right?
my God, of course not. Right? I mean, I went to like the most prestigious school in Canada for ballet, and it was incredible, and it was so hard, and all we ever want as dancers, not all we ever want, a lot of what we do is we seek approval.
Mm.
We stand in front of a
Approval.
mirror and look for approval.
And actually, fault finding. You look
And
for
fault
every
finding,
little
right?
mistake.
We look for fault, right? To make it
And
better.
who was your teacher? Your Madam who? Was
Oh
it
my gosh.
Madam?
I mean, I had so
Was
many.
it Madam?
We didn't have any madams.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I had a lot of them, and they ranged from various parts in the world. And of course, like,
Russian one.
Russians are like, I mean, you talk about like fortitude.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? Like they've been through hell and back as a people, and then you put them into art where they can express themselves.
All right.
Like, but like, like the rigor of that training and the expectation day in and day out was just intense. And like, we arrive in and, we think we're trying hard, and like we get like, oh, ladies, you are stupid today, I see. Well, you forgot your brains today. And like nothing. But then in the same tone, oh, that was beautiful. You're like, I don't understand. Like, what? Or like being like,
you forgot your brains today.
Forgot brains today. Oh, ladies, your stomachs, they look like sour cream today.
Oh my goodness. And you're like 4 pounds, right?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, there's just so much, I mean, we could do an interview just on, recovering from the body image stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my God, yes.
And like needing to be so specific in order to be needed.
Oh my
Right?
goodness.
Or wanted, which was like, right? Is this good enough? Is this too high? Is this too low? Am I too fat? Am I too skinny? Is my nose too long? I mean, they asked me to get calf implants.
What?
Your legs look great on point, but when you're flat, you don't have calf muscle, no matter how hard you try. Calf implants, they'd be great.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Suggestion. So it's just wild. It's wild, this like profession of perfection that's never attainable, but we try so hard. And like, is this good enough? Am I good enough?
And that is definite prime breeding ground for people pleasing and all kinds of things. I mean, I don't want, there's a lot of, people who put this kind of discipline down, and I would say it has its good sides and its bad sides.
Amazing.
And I think in hindsight, I think if we're solid individuals working on, if we have a solid, how can I say that, with any kind of discipline, if we're approaching it in a way where we're not identifying with it in that way, where we're saying, okay, this is my goal, this is what I'd like to do, but no, my whole identity doesn't mean that I'm a prima ballerina.
Exactly. Exactly. And like, it's also like, it's so compelling how few people actually make it. It's like other like very consuming discipline. And
yes.
I mean, I was bred with an extraordinary work ethic. So I would go to school and like, we just worked, like it was work, and like the discipline is incredible. I mean, you do see results, right? And I wouldn't have moved to New York. I wouldn't have met you. Like, here's the thing. If I didn't go to National Ballet School, I just named it. Oh, sorry, I'm not trying to be insulting. Anybody?
No one's going to listen to that, I don't think.
Probably not. But like, if I look at the through line, if I didn't go to
Mm.
National Ballet School, I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't know
So
Raghu.
true. So true.
So like, I wouldn't have danced in the dance company I did. I wouldn't know my direct. So when the discipline that was given to me, I needed. And
Mm.
it's on me whether or not that discipline is abusive or not. Because it is a
Absolutely.
self-directed, it's a self, right? Like I'm doing the work,
Yes.
right? And then it's my internalizing whether I'm good enough or not. Or
Mm.
like, so again, that hindsight piece.
Absolutely. And I think when we're young, I think it's maybe a little more difficult to do that,
Totally.
to figure that out.
Yeah.
But, I think also it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are so many benefits to negative things, to things that impact us maybe at that moment in a negative way, or supported our unhealthy ways of thinking or doing or acting. But, I feel often with someone like myself, and that life is like an act of deduction often. It's a
Yeah.
trial and error. And I need to figure out, like, okay, so I did this didn't work out because why? Because it fed my codependency, or it fed my addiction, or it did this. And
Right.
doesn't mean it's a great thing because we've learned.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And
Okay. So, sorry, go ahead.
what I am going to say though, too, is I was so fortunate. I was fortunate to be in that container of like work, like it was like a, like a pressure cooker.
Right.
And there was so much beauty in it also. Like it was incredible. And then I end up moving to New York and I become part of this dance company who's my directors, Jana and Marika, who I love so much, were like, we see you in that box.
Mm.
Let's break the box. And, instead of like, being yelled like, faster, harder,
Harder.
higher,
Yeah.
pull in your stomach, spot, no, don't breathe, like whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever we're being yelled at, right? Be elegant, right? Like
all at the same time. And now smile, honey.
now
Smile.
They're yelling something different, which is mess it up. They were really the first people in my life who said, make a mess.
Great.
Abandon what you know.
Oh, I love this.
Break, and they helped me develop out of, it has to be perfect too,
Mhm.
and I would, sometimes I come off stage, I'm like, oh my God, I messed that part up. And they would say like, that was great.
Yeah.
Great. Mess it up. Please mess it up. We'll tell you if it's gone too far, but please mess it up. It was awesome. So
some people just, you just need that sometimes,
I needed that.
step out of the damn box.
Yeah.
Step
And
out of the box.
they helped me seek out different validation. It was different validation. It was, I could still feed that codependency, but at least it was like a step down from,
Okay, so I mean, this is setting that, knowing where you're coming from, and then you get this canter, and then you get you get the lump removed. What happens next?
okay, so I get the lump removed and then I go through chemotherapy, and that was rough because I was not living in New York then. I moved home to Toronto.
So yeah, so you found this little yoga studio, you
Found
said.
this little yoga studio, and my mom and my dad and I started practicing yoga every day except chemo days. We would go to the studio.
Beautiful.
And then I took a teacher training during that time, because what else was I going to do?
Well, yeah.
I mean, I could have rested my body, but but no, I didn't.
But no.
But no, I didn't. I had an incredible teacher, and I wanted to train with her and I wanted to learn from her. And she really was one of the first people who said to me, like, you know, you've trained your eye to find fault, to fix something. But what if you train your eye the other way? And you train your eye to see what's working. And you train your eye to
Beautiful.
affirm in people what's working first before you go in with that scalpel.
Wow.
She's like, you won't succeed as a yoga teacher without it. And I was like,
Wow. So it's
wow.
like really two completely opposite schools.
Two completely opposite schools. And it improved my dancing like you couldn't believe. When I got
Oh,
back,
I could believe it.
I got
Oh, I
back
could
to New
believe it.
York after all of my treatment, and my directors were like, what the hell happened? Like, whoa.
I took a yoga teacher training.
Yoga teacher training. And it was also my yoga teacher has a twin sister who's a somatic therapist.
Oh, I love that.
And it was the first time anybody had ever said to me, what just happened to you traumatized you? And I was like, no, it didn't. I'm fine. I'm great. Because I really want you to like me. I'm fine. I'm really good because I don't ever want you to see like what's underneath or like the layers upon layers of like, you know.
You were still holding pose, weren't you?
I was still holding pose. I'm so good at it. Oh God, I'm great at holding pose. You put me in a pose, I'll stay there forever. You know? Yeah,
Wow.
I was holding face, you know, from like 9 years old, I've learned how to hold face. Right?
Wow.
And so she said, I don't want you to talk anymore. We're just going to go into your body instead and let your body do the talking. And man, did it have a lot to say.
Oh my God.
So we did a whole bunch of like somatic work, and I would come home after that because I was still in Canada, and my mom would be waiting for me. Like, what did you guys talk about in therapy? And I was like, I can't tell you. She's like, but you tell me everything. And I was like, I'm not telling you this. She's like, but you didn't cry or anything, did you, honey? And I was like, oh, I did more than that. I
Screamed.
I
screamed.
screamed. I took a baseball bat to a couch. You know, stood and like shook it all out. And she's, you know, I didn't tell her that because that, you know.
Did you feel didn't feel safe telling that to your mother at that
I
time?
think it would, because it would upset her because I've held on
Yes.
to so many things, right? And it's not her
God
fault.
forbid you wouldn't want to inconvenience anybody.
I don't want to inconvenience, but you know, I think that that's just like such the thing of the people pleaser is like, you know, and I know that in my mom's experience, she does not want to inconvenience anybody by what's going on with her.
Which
And
is noble.
it's
It's
noble.
beautiful, but it could be very lonely because there are spaces you do need to do that with.
Exactly. I mean, at
Yeah.
9 years old, I already felt like a, you know, a little, you know, square peg trying to fit into a round hole anyway. And then add your mom having cancer at 9. I felt so, except for 2 friends, I felt so alone because I was holding this thing.
My mom's sick and might die.
My mom's sick, I might die.
That must be very scary for a 9-year-old
Super
to
scary.
carry.
Yeah. I used to,
And you guys, I know you guys are a very close-knit family, so, you know, it's even scarier.
absolutely, so close. I'm an only child, you know,
Mhm.
our family's really tight. You know, it definitely gave my family a lot of, you know what, here's what it gave us though. It gave us the preciousness of time.
Mhm. That's
And
beautiful.
not just like for months after, like
Years.
years. Like
Wow.
when I said to my parents, I want to go to the National Ballet School for college. No problem, let's do it. Mom, Dad, I want to move to New York. Great, do it. My parents are like, we're going to go on a trip. Great, we're pulling you out of school for a trip. Great, let's go. So like they wanted, you know, they understood the temporality.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah. So while I was doing this teacher training thing and all of that was really my first taste into deeper practices of yoga. And
Mm.
it was a Shivite school.
Oh, I did the same in my teacher training. I did a Shivite school as well.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like
Was it Hatha yoga? Was it Hatha yoga or no?
it was Anusara yoga before that all fell apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Before all that.
it all fell apart. But like the principles are great. Just you know, it got complicated.
Yeah.
It got a little, it did that thing, you know. But there was two things that really happened in my yoga teacher training that were, I guess, in a way, my precursor to bhakti. May I share them?
Oh, please.
Okay, so I still was very much in that, like, was definitely loving all the lovely readings, was definitely loving, you know, the history of yoga and the stories around it and the yamas and the niyama. Like I was digging it. And then two things happened. One, we were given a yamas and niyamas assignment. And what did you think I got? Ishvara Pranadhana.
Oh boy, explain that to the people who don't know what that is.
Okay, so Ishvara Pranadhana is the final niyama.
Maybe
And
you need to, yeah.
okay, so
Anyway, go
the
ahead.
yamas and the niyamas are
Yes.
the observations and the restraints. There's 5 observations that we observe, and 5 or like you know, restraining practices.
Right. Okay.
Right. Did I explain that right? Wow, I lead teacher trainings. I should just be able to roll this right off my tongue.
Well, I don't know if it's that. Actually, I don't know if it's that prevalent. I think the most important part is so you've got
The most important part is I selected the project of surrendering to God.
exactly. Hmm.
And I said to my teacher, can I change? Can I draw a different one out of the hat? And she said,
Really?
yeah,
That
I
is
did. I was like, because
hysterical.
it just doesn't resonate with me. This doesn't feel in alignment with me.
No, definitely not, especially with my codependency.
Right. And
My
so
control issues are like not
control
having this.
issues, right? Oh God. And so she said, no, figure it out.
No, dear.
So I had to, you know, sit with it and feel it.
Hmm.
And I remember, and we had to give a presentation on it. And I remember sitting and crying and saying, I don't like this. I don't like how this feels. I don't like the idea of surrendering and giving over. I believe in a power, but I don't believe I give myself to it. And like that feels wrong and scary.
It feels wrong to not give it, or it feels wrong to give it.
Give it. Because
So
I don't trust. I was like,
Right.
I trust a universal source, but I'm mad at God for all this
Yes.
stuff. So I don't trust that God's going to take care of me if I surrender.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So that was real, you know. And then, you know, to follow that, a couple weeks later, we have another weekend of teacher training, and there's a kirtan.
oh,
Mm-mm.
you are not having it.
Not having it, because I also, you know, after I decided I didn't want to be a ballerina at all, I thought, you know, musical theater is, you know, I like that. So I was taking voice lessons and would always, you know, it was sort of touch and go whether or not I would feel confident in an audition or not. But I never sang for my soul, ever. I sang to be,
To sound good.
I sang to sound good, and I sang
Yeah.
to get a role.
Yes.
So kirtan, I did not like. I was hella pissed.
No, sir, I do not like this.
And no, sir, I do not like. And I was like, it was like the longest 2 hours of the teacher training. And I didn't like it because also by the end of the 2 hours, I was starting to feel things. And I, started to sing and cry and like, no, 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 no. Like, oh, this just must be like the trauma from the cancer coming out. Like, so that was sort of that taste of like, well, you had that like reversal thing, and now this is all happening. Everything's realigning. I'm about to go back to my life in New York. And, I'm confronted with this like surrender to God project. And then I have to like sing names of God. Like, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
I love it.
And have some
Oh.
devotion. No. Thank you very much.
Oh.
So then I moved back to New York and like, I started teaching yoga where I teach, my friend who owns the studio, she loves to chant. And eventually I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. It's like kind of nice. It's nice to sing, I guess. Something more than Om. It's nice to chant something more than Om, but I still don't believe it, by the way, but it's pretty. It's pretty. And then I met Raghu.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Wow, 45 minutes in. Sorry, I'm chatterbox.
Hey, no worries. I love it.
So, and then I met Raghu. I met Raghu because that amazing boyfriend and I broke up.
Oh.
Which also today is his death day.
Oh, I
Woo!
know. Oh, today.
Today.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
So, we broke up and my friend said to me, hey, why don't you come to the Bhakti Center with me? My teacher is having a satsang. And I was like, all right, cool. So I like roll up to the Bhakti Center and go up to the 5th floor, and there's a ton of people there. I'd never been to a kirtan before, like a full-on kirtan.
Like that, yeah.
Kirtan, at the teacher training and like, chanting for 2 minutes. And I walk in and it's very dimly lit, and Raghu's at the other end of the room. And I walk in with my friend and we sit down and he starts singing that melody that like, Radhe, Radhe, Govinda, Govinda, Radhe.
It's one of my
I
favorite
was
ones.
like, what is this? Where am I? What is happening?
Wow.
And everyone's like super mellow and it's beautiful. And then the kirtan popped off and I'd never was like, whoa, like
what's going on here?
Why are people clapping and dancing?
Why are you guys standing up? Sit down. What's going on?
What is happening? This is weird, right? But in true like Krishna Bhakti form, eventually I'm swept up in it. And if you can't like, you can't lick them, join them. So okay. And then like afterwards, everyone's like super nice and like, would you like some khichdi? And like, okay.
Did it freak you out?
I mean,
when I first met them,
like dancers are also really weird. So I was just like, oh, this is just like another, like, here I am with like more weird artsy people. Great. Okay. And so it was nice. And then I left and felt like, oh, like maybe I like really don't hate kirtan. Maybe it was just okay, things are changing. And then a couple of weeks later, my friend Amanda, who owns Prema, I was managing the studio for her at the time. And she said, will you get a hold of Raghunath's people? I want to bring him to the studio. Like, I just met him. Okay. So we bring him to the studio. And in that short window of time, my teachers in Toronto had to close their yoga studios. There was a whole thing that happened. They had to close all their yoga studios. And I just kind of found myself in this moment where I was like, oh my God, I don't have a teacher. Like, what? Oh, like I felt that sort of like weightless, like groundlessness
Mhm.
of like, if we don't have teachers as yogis, we're screwed.
Mm.
We're screwed if we don't have a teacher to keep
It's
us,
true. As much as
you know?
people would like not to admit that, it's true.
If we don't have that checks and balance teacher living a life that
And
we
a,
want,
yes, and a sangha.
and the sangha, teacher and sangha need it, right?
Totally.
You have sangha, but if you don't have teacher, the sangha doesn't stay together, right? So
Absolutely.
Raghu walked in to teach this, like, you know, flight school thing. And he sits down and I'm sitting and then I open my eyes and I just like had this moment. I was like, oh my God, my teacher's here. Like it was so
Wow.
clear. I have a picture of him and I after that class.
Oh my God, I'd love to see it one day.
It's great. It's great. And he announced that, oh, I'm going to teach a 150-hour training at the Bhakti Center starting in 2 weeks. It's handstands and harmonium.
So Raghu. Okay, handstands and harmonium. Thanks, Raghu.
It was basically that. It was, I forget what it was called. It was called like Ascension into Sound or something like that. Like,
Mm.
and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So my friend and Amanda and I did it. And it was at the Bhakti Center for 10 hours a day for
Oh my
15 days.
goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We had
that's
to be there.
insane.
Yeah. And so we got like Bhakti speedballed. We'd have like 2-hour satsangs in the morning that were just like,
It's like bhakti meth.
it was
Bhakti
like
crack.
Bhakti math. And then like we'd get like super high on satsang. And then we'd have like the hardest yoga asana class of our life and just be like, oh my God, okay. And then like all of a sudden we're coming in with like a Bhagavad Gita class. And then like, you know, Ananta and Achyuta Gopi are coming in and giving us like kirtan classes, and then Gauravani's coming, and then Tukarang's coming, and then like boom, 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 and we're just like,
The bhakti's 2x4.
we were like
Ow.
really got hit with the Bhakti 2x4,
Oh my
and
goodness.
we were all just like, whoa, you know, and I mean, no person in this age, in this time frame, since like.
Mhm.
You know, the Western Krishna like you know, in our era
Sure.
has brought more people than Raghu.
Oh, I would not
No
doubt
one
that.
can do it like him. No one can take a Bhagavad Gita, those Srimad Bhagavatam, and turn it and chew it and give it to us in like a spoonful at a time where we're not
With honey.
with
honey.
with honey.
A spoonful of sugar helps the bhagavatam go down.
Right? You know, like I remember sitting and listening to him speak about Draupadi.
Oh, my favorite.
Me too.
Draupadi, oh Draupadi. I think that's like that is Draupadi is the root of the mood I am in bhakti
Yep.
in my life. Draupadi is it.
Draupadi is it. And just being like, wow. And then he says things like, okay, now sing Shri Krishna Govinda Hari Murari Hinata Narayana Vasudeva.
Oh, that's my second
Now
favorite.
sing it like Draupadi.
Oof.
You know, and that's when I started going, okay. Maybe there is a possibility of having a relationship with divinity that isn't fire and brimstone. I'm going to hell. And maybe it, you know, it can be loving. Maybe it can be whimsical and sweet and a friendship, all of the things, you know, that bhakti Krishna Bhakti promotes. And, you know, so another thing happened during that training is, you know, we're learning the harmonium, we're all singing and it's great. And then we play pass it around. And then Raghu says, okay, it's your turn. Now
Oh, you didn't.
And something that else that Raghu's really expert at is he does not treat every student the same.
Yeah.
He gives you not what you want. He gives you what you need.
Hmm.
And what I needed in that moment was to be a little bitch slapped.
Mm-hmm.
Bhakti bitch slapped. And
Bobby bitch slapped.
he said to me,
Woo!
go ahead. And I said, no,
No, thank you. And then he said, oh my God. I love
you're wasting our time.
Ooh, Raghu.
Do it. And he like stopped smiling at me. It's like, okay. So I started. And I messed up. So I started to cry. And I stopped. And I said, can I start again? And he goes, no. Keep going. I like thought I was going to throw up. He's like, keep singing. Like he just like, mwah. And I crossed. And in that moment, I crossed over. He's like, I don't care that you care so much about how you sound or how you look. It's not about that. Devotion isn't about how you sound and how you look. He's like, your ego is covering your heart. Uncover it. Go.
Beautiful.
And I was like I really saw in that moment how wrapped in my ego I was.
Mm.
And he, you know, it was so great. And in like this weird way, it reminded me of like one of the things that my Russian ballet teachers used to say to me, like, you know, it would kill sometimes. It would hurt, you know, our feet would split open and we'd like wince or even like start to cry while we were dancing. And she would say like, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Think about your dancing. Don't think about yourself. Think about the dancing.
I'm trying not to giggle out loud because I really hope, you know, look, by me laughing, I'm really not laughing to try and like people are traumatized by stuff like this. And I don't want to make light of it.
Mm-mm.
But I'm talking with you, and this is a conversation between you, and I know you,
Yeah.
and I know that we can laugh about these kind of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So,
But in
you
that
know,
moment, like I didn't need Raghu to be soft with me.
absolutely.
I needed him to be like, you know, Krishna,
Step
whether
up.
you handle me roughly or gently,
Yes.
do the thing, do it. You know,
Yeah.
cut to now. I'm one of the I teach harmonium and teach kirtan. Now I
Yeah.
lead kirtan
Yes.
because
And
of him,
you, yeah.
because of him.
And your yoga teacher training with him side
And
by
I'm
side.
leading yoga teacher training with him. So,
It's
and we
amazing.
left that training and he said, as high as you all are from this, get ready because it'll turn in a moment.
Yeah.
He got very grave for a moment, you know, that like very sober delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend and I were, you know, walking, this is great. And we walk out of the subway and I have a voicemail from my roommate, who's one of my very best friends. And she said, I need you to call me.
Oh no. I know it's coming.
And she said, I have MS. What? Oh, okay. And it was that moment of like, oh, I see. Like spiritual consciousness isn't just the joy. It's
Mm.
the whole package.
And it's not just while you're in the yoga
It's
teacher
just
training,
not
it's when you take those experiences and bring them into your real life. You know what I love about talking to you right now is that I see through all the steps. It might seem, and I'm going to frame this for some people, it might seem that it was a little bit here and a little bit there, but I see each and every, it's like you're walking through your journey with us and taking a cloak off each time. One cloak has been shed, another cloak has been shed, and another cloak has been shed. So now you're in this position. Now you've just taken this teacher training with Raghu. You are realizing, wow, okay, you've gotten over some ego. You pulled that thing with the surrender and God, and you had a realization there. And it's just sort of, higher power speaking to you
right.
and
And
offering
yeah,
this.
absolutely. And then I kind of had that choice in this, and then that moment of I had let the wall, I'd broken down a couple bricks on the wall, and my instinct was to put them right back in that moment.
Mm.
And I didn't. And I'm not saying that for like a pat on the back. I
No,
chose
no.
not to put the brick back.
And that is an absolute pivotal moment in
Hugely
making a
pivotal.
decision. Because
Yeah.
when you are able to make a decision like that, that is a privilege. Often
Massive privilege.
we run around life not being able to make decisions because we are plagued with our samskaras. We're plagued with the identity of our diseases, our karma and everything else. And the moment we are able to have a decision to make, I'm going to make myself bitter or better. When we
Yep.
have those choices, man, whole thing opens up. And if we don't continue making choices against our quote unquote better thinking, then we'll never get anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so,
And
okay, so you've done this teacher training, you're ecstatic, your roommate calls or your best friend calls and says, I'm a mess.
yeah, I have MS.
Oh, I thought you said I'm
No,
a mess. And
no,
I was like,
no. She said, I
I
have
have
MS.
MS. Oh my goodness.
And I'm what, 36 at that time? She's 34. And we were both like,
It's crazy.
crying and like, what? What? Like that sort of like high and then boom. And it was
Boom, reality.
boom reality. And like, oh, okay. It was really shocking. And I remember calling Raghu and being like, you said it would happen. I didn't know it would happen like that.
As soon as I walked out of the
As
door
soon as I walked out. And he just, said, keep singing, keep chanting, keep just one baby step.
yeah.
Go through your notes, read them, stay in Sangha, And then the following year, I went to India with him.
Oh, okay. You went to GEV or went to somewhere else?
No, we went to Rishikesh, Haridwar, and Vrindavan. And that was
So on his
on his
pilgrimages.
pilgrimage.
By the way, anyone listening, go on
Go
his
on
pilgrimage.
his pilgrimage.
Go on
If
his
you want to go to
pilgrimage.
India, don't go with anybody
Oh,
else.
and by the way, we didn't even talk about the GEV that we are going to be there, you and I, and
we
Raghu, and Kastuba, the whole
and
crew,
Cindy and
Cindy,
oh my God,
and and we'll be
January.
there.
Be there in
There'll be
January.
there will be a teacher training. If you want to know about that, go to wisdomofthesages.com or go to raghunathyoga.com
Yeah, exactly.
and
200-hour
check that out.
training, 300-hour training with myself, Kastuba, Raghu, Cindy Lunsford, Lori Pagliaroni, Jiva. Yeah.
Okay, so
Special guest
just
Radha Swami. What?
what?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, this is, oh God. That summer, so before I went to India, I went to a Bhakti immersion which is like Hare Krishna summer camp.
You're laughing, Hare Krishna summer camp. Dude,
Which I didn't know that's what it was. Also, I want to say I didn't know like that's what it was going to be. And I got there and I was like, man, we're just like singing the we're just chanting the mantra the whole time. Like, are we
like,
not
how boring? Like, why can't we do
can we do
another?
something else? So Ramaswamy shows up and Raghu says to me, like comes and finds me and he goes, I need you to meet somebody. And,
And
like,
did you have any idea who this person was?
No. Oh,
You're like, okay, the guy in the orange
okay.
robe. Okay.
And I
I'll
see
go.
like this, like, like very like,
Graceful. Graceful.
sitting on the
Ugh.
grass in a blanket. And there's like people like lined up to see him. And Raghu just does like almost that like velvet rope deal and just
Yeah, like you're on the
like,
guest list. You're on the
"All right,
guest list. You're
everybody."
VIP. Fast
And I
lane.
and I sit down. And I mean, I don't really remember anything that came out of my mouth that was of worth. I got that
Same
like
for me. I was
I
a
got
blundering idiot when I talked to him.
Swami struck.
Like
And
I've never had a satisfying conversation with him because I am a blundering fool when I talk to him. I feel like the biggest fool.
Blundering fool. And I remember just him that I didn't know what darshan was at that point. Like I had no idea until.
By the way, for someone who doesn't know what darshan is, it's just a talk between you and a guru.
Yeah. And I sat and just went, oh. Whew. It was like, like really being seen by someone who I don't know. And just the softness in him. It's like, wow.
He's so delicate and he's so graceful. He's like this gentle, graceful. It's so beautiful to watch him just dance or just walk. I just don't even know. Like when I come up to him, I feel like this broken, like noisy, like when like when a hick gets married and they put all those cans in the back of their car and it's like, that's how I feel approaching him. Like, like, here comes the mess. Here comes the bag of bones in the mess. Coming up to Radha Swami. And he just looks at me and he's like, oh, hello, Jiva, you mess, you.
But he's just like, it was that being seen in that way was just so, it was like he just like took me somewhere and then brought me right back. And I don't know where I went, but I went to somewhere very special and quiet and sweet and so that happened. And then I went to India and that was amazing. Like I mean, got my world rocked in India. Never been the same since. Never. Ever. And still, there was parts of me holding on to like we were whitewater rafting down the Ganga, which that was a blast. And the guy, guiding us down, who was like, steering the whitewater.
Rafting in holy water.
What could possibly go wrong? He says, okay, everybody in the river. And I went, nah, I'm good. And he grabs me by my, chucks me in the Ganga, like by my life vest. In I go. Well, getting wet now.
Was that Raghu who did that?
No, it was the guy steering the raft.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
We're like going down the Ganga and there's like a rock coming and he just pulled me out of the way of it. Like it was intense. Like it wasn't just like a joyride down the Ganga. Like it got crazy at a couple points. But I did not have the intention of going into the Ganga, but man, she's powerful.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch people dip. I didn't want to actually dip myself because God forbid I have a God experience. So I could
Well,
prove
I had definitely had the same experience approaching her. Approaching Mother Ganga was for me very humbling, to say the least.
yeah.
Also wanting just to watch other people.
Yeah, just like watch their, yeah.
Yeah. And not wanting to do it myself, just like,
No,
no, I'm not ready for this yet, like,
exactly.
I
Because
don't know
it's
about
big.
that yet,
Yeah, it's a big deal. Then people who have bathed in her waters, I was like, who am I to do that? So
right?
yeah, so that happened. I went back the next year, different pilgrimage, deeper experience. It was amazing. Um, then I was still dancing with dance companies, stopped dancing, got pregnant, had my daughter, went to India while I was pregnant, went to the GEV for the first time. That was amazing. Just
Oh, while pregnant?
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. I know that. I knew
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I went while I was pregnant. And that was, one of the best gifts I've ever given myself. And my
Wow.
daughter. And my daughter. She went
Of
to India
course.
before,
Before she was born,
when
when
she
she was
was
in your
born.
belly bell.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was really like so incredible to have that experience with her then. And then,
Mm,
cut to, because I know this is like now we're gonna round into my victory lap of cancer.
my victory lap of
My
cancer.
victory
God, I
lap.
love you.
Um,
Oh,
so my husband and I split in March of 2019. Frankie was a year and a half. And we were at a place where like I'm gonna say I was in like full-blown codependency at that point.
mm.
And and
And was he on board with this whole bhakti thing or no?
no,
Okay.
no, no, I came home from India and there's a picture of me. It's floating around somewhere. I mean, I have it on my social media feed, but it's floating around somewhere on like Raghu's site, and it's me at the flower festival. And I am like even through the picture, it's like
Exploding with
one of
joy.
those, just like the biggest amount of joy.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's such a great shot. And I remember he saw that picture and he said, I don't make you feel that way.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And it was accurate, sadly accurate.
Mm.
And our we polarize each other,
Mm.
I think as codependents do. We find the person that we want to love into fixing. And then if I loved him hard enough that he wouldn't be depressed, if I loved him hard enough, he would not have a sleeping disorder. If I loved him hard enough, he would want to be the best version of himself every day. And if I loved him hard enough and showed just that, like, it's not on me to do that. And it was so hard because I loved him so much.
Mm.
And I don't not love him now. I want him to be happy. I want him to feel whole and succeed in life and have what he wants. I also just realized, not just now, but you know, in the process of it falling apart, he didn't want me either.
Mm.
I didn't want the version of him,
And he didn't want that version
and
of
he
you.
didn't want that version of me. I had turned into his mom, nagging, not supportive,
Mm.
not kind. And so I walked away.
Wow.
And that was in March, and it was very painful, but of course, as a codependent does, I'm good.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Suck it up, buttercup. You got yoga classes to teach. You got a baby to care for.
Mm.
You got a smile to put on. Ding.
Mm.
And so
Hold the pose.
hold the pose, bitch.
Hold the pose. Do you know, as we're going through this, I am writing all of the good stuff that all the sentences that way. Yeah, there's some good stuff here.
So that was in March of 2019, and May 1st, 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer again.
Oh my God.
Woo!
So 2 months later,
Yeah. 2 months
you walk
later.
away from your life and then you walk into
Hell.
breast cancer as a single mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this time it wasn't as quote
Oh,
unquote harmless.
oh no. It was harmful.
Yeah.
And
Did it stay? Did it stay?
I had
breast
by the
cancer, or
time I
did it-
had my surgery, it had spread to 2 lymph nodes. So it was technically stage 2 breast
Right,
cancer. Previously, it was stage 1 in my first
right.
round. But this time it was a double mastectomy without question.
Hmm.
It was more chemo. And this time the protocol was different and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But there were things that so so when I had my I was having my biopsy. So I don't know whether you, Jiva, or anybody listening has had a stereotactic breast biopsy.
No, I've never had one.
So a instrument gets inserted. It's like a very large needle. I'm gonna say it's probably like the circumference of like the thing you stick into your computer, like a headphone jack. Like
Oh my
that.
goodness.
Gets
Yes.
in.
I've had one of those on my liver.
Right.
Yeah.
So they put it in and then it's like a gunshot, like a
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had that on my liver. Yes.
And so
It's so incredibly painful.
it's so incredibly painful. And also it's the sound, like I didn't realize
It's
how
loud.
much imprint it had made the first time. And so I was having it done. And the first time they did it, I sat up and I was like, no,
Oh my
no,
God.
no. Like I like lost it. And then these women came in and it was like they were like angels. And they said, it's okay. And they all like held me while I had a biopsy. Not held me down, but just held me. And they like
I
let
wish,
me cry. And they like,
Bobbie, I wish I was there for you. I would have been so there for you. I love you.
I love you too.
It's just so, it's so painful to think of you being all alone in that room and having these people put things in you and having this fucking cancer again.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It was I wish you were there too. But you know what? You probably were. Because like, Krishna put you in my life and you've been there for, it wasn't just like a rando that we met. Like it's,
No.
it's just been like waiting to pass in, right?
Mm.
But yeah, it was in that moment was one of those moments where I was like, oh, I am protected here.
Ah, beautiful.
They're sent to protect me. Okay. And so that happened. And then when I was going into my surgery, when my grandma was alive, she had, she played the lotto. Of course she did. Like all good Ontarians, we play the lotto 649.
That's so fun.
her lucky numbers were 2, 5, 7. And I waited all frickin' day to have my surgery. I arrived at the hospital at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and waiting to go in. So I get led to the OR, and I sit down on the, you know, on the operating table, and they're like ninjas at Sloan Kettering. Like as soon as you step into the operating room, they're like surrounding you by all sides. Like you're not getting out of there. But they're also like, hello, Roberta. Okay, Roberta, you're gonna sit down. Okay, I'm gonna put these like these compression things on your legs, which if anybody's ever had them, they're amazing. I wish I could have them at home. And so then I lay back, you know, and I'm like barely able to go back before they're like hooking me up there. I'm about to like go. And I look, and as my head hits the pillow, I look at the clock, and it's 2:57. It's 2:57. And then boom, lights go out. Lights go out. Cut to, I come back, and I've got messages. And so my friend who's in medium, I have a message from her at 2:57. And also at 2:57, I have a recording of a kirtan in Germany from Raghu and a whole bunch of people.
Oh my God.
At 2:57.
That's insane. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
It's crazy. It was crazy. Also, side note, when the day I got diagnosed was the same day we started teacher training. I mean,
no.
I called him, and my friend Amanda's like, I'm gonna call Raghu and tell him what's going on, so you don't have to go to teacher training. I'm like, fuck that, I'm going to teacher training. I gotta go do something.
Yeah.
So he was very much like, are you sure you want to do this today? And I was like, yeah. Like got on the Amtrak, went upstate, you know. And one of the things that he said to me, you know, because like I knew that it was going to be a little more serious than it was last time. And he said, you know, you're not going to be alone through any of this. No matter how far it goes, you're not going to be alone. And I said, you know, thanks. And he goes, no, I'm serious. Like, if you're going to, you know, and he got like real. He's like, if you're going to leave your body, I'm chanting right beside you until you're gone. Yeah. I will sit and I will not leave your side. I want you to know that. I was like, okay, thank you. All right. So then we led teacher training all during my, you know, I roll up at like the first teacher training, I've got hair. By the second time we all meet, I had just shaved my head like 2 days before, and half of the teacher trainees were men and half of them were women. And all of the men were bald.
That's so great.
And so I roll up and I've got like, you know, my head wrapped. And I sit down, you know, and I mean, they knew what was going on anyway. I sit down and one of the teacher trainees says, hey, Bobbie, are you covering your head just for us? And I said, yeah, I am. I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
Oh, my cancer is making you uncomfortable. Oh.
And they said, please take it off. We love you. Oh. So along that journey is when I started not making cancer comfortable for everybody else. And it started with that. And I realized how freeing that became when I stopped trying to make everything palatable and start allowing people to H-word me, help me.
The H word, yes.
Support me, take naps.
Yuck.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Hang on, I'll do it all by myself.
I know. I was like, but I did also, have to radically, it wasn't like it wasn't because I wanted to do that. It's because I like physically I had to, because this doctor I started to see upon recommendation of my friend who I mentioned, who texted me at 2:57. This medium had said to me, after your surgery, there's a doctor I'm going to want you to see. Because if you plan on staying on the planet, you better do everything she says.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, you told me about this. Tell everybody else about this with the food.
This is
and
like,
the
this
diet
is like,
and
this
everything.
is, this is everything.
And this is surrendering again, right? Surrendering. You need to
Major.
surrender.
Major. So like, when I worked in the restaurants, I was the pastry cook. I thought, and I ate really healthy. But I
Yeah.
also, I've got cancer. I've just, left my husband. I have a 1.5-year-old. And like, I am eating a half a bar of chocolate at night because I am.
Yeah,
And,
because I need
I'm
it.
having pasta with a
Yes.
mountain of Parmesan cheese. Like, so, so I go to this doctor. And so she says to me, okay, but first we're going to look at what you can't eat anymore. And I said, okay. So she said, she gave me, the list
Like
of things
everything that you eat every day. It's like
everything I could, every day.
oh
you know.
gosh.
So it was like, I was already vegetarian, so like that piece is, fine. But no wheat, no dairy, no soy, no fruit, no sugar of any kind, no tomatoes, no lemons,
No
no lime,
nightshades.
no nightshades, because I'd already had my surgery. And she said, the body, there's so much inflammation in your body trying to heal from not just the surgery, but now the chemotherapy, that if you put inflammants in, the body is so smart, it takes the path of least resistance first and goes to work on the food. And then the inflammation stays. So you're going on an anti-inflammatory diet until I say so.
Oh my goodness. So what could you eat? What were you eating generally? Do you remember?
I was eating sweet potatoes, lentils,
Yum.
greens.
Yum. But not every day.
Not every day. Can't eat it every day. That was the thing. She's like, but you can't eat it every day. Like for the first 2 weeks, she took away all, like, I don't want to say all carbs, but like I couldn't have any grains.
Yeah.
So it was like sweet potatoes. I think I could have millet. I could have coconut oil. I could have coconut yogurt. I could have lentils. I could have all the vegetables I wanted, but I couldn't consume anything that was going to basically turn into starch,
Right.
Sweet potatoes,
So,
which were the exception to the rule.
yeah.
And I mean, it was a drastic overhaul.
Mm.
And then when she gave me back basmati rice, I cried with joy, wept in her arms. Thank you so much for giving me back basmati rice. Right? But then it became sort of this, I could have oats once a week, quinoa twice a week. I could incorporate, so after the acute phase of
Yes.
inflammation reduction and no sugar and all that. But what was very interesting is it got me very in touch with the emotions that I masked.
Wow.
My mom would be like, why are you so angry? It's like, well, I'm not having any sugar.
I'm angry because I'm eating fucking
Right?
spinach for the 18,000th time.
Yeah. But my parents were also like, they were living with me at the time because they were taking care of me and taking care of Frankie.
Yeah.
So we they kind of came along on the ride with me, Hi, baby girl. Kitty. And so then I went back in to see her and she's like, okay, So now that we're sort of tackling some of the inflammation, now let's get to what's really going on.
Wow.
Do you know some of the things that you've just eliminated? She goes, you got to do that with your whole life too. She goes, you know, cancer just doesn't happen.
Mm.
It
The
happens.
issues are in the tissues.
Yeah. She's like, it happens because you've got
Wow.
people, places, and things that are malignant in your life.
Wow. That's
It's-
powerful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. So she's like, we can do all the supplements, we can do all the nutrition, but if you don't get rid of the people, places, and things that cause malignancy in your body, it's going to come back again. And
That explains why you took to the program so quick. So quick. You were just like, you got it immediately. I was like, how does anyone get this so quickly? Like, so quick. You're like, yep, got it, get it. And
done. I had never had boundaries before. I had never, you know, took distance from people who weren't good for me. I had never said no. I'd always said like, no, okay.
okay, yeah, me too. And then either like, if you really couldn't, you just flake because you didn't want to say no.
Right,
you just...
exactly. I couldn't let people down. I always felt compelled to say yes, you know. So she's like, start easy, because then you'll be ready to go deep, you know. So
Yes.
she's like, start, you know, putting up walls, start having harder conversations, start expressing yourself, allow your daughter to express herself.
Good for you. And you did the work. Girl, you did the work.
Woo! And then I met you.
Oh, what a journey.
And you introduced me to, you know, I definitely thought and felt, because they're not the same thing. Thought and felt that this was a part of myself that I needed to keep hidden from like Krishna Bhakti.
Mm-hmm.
That I needed to do this work outside my sadhana, because like that is not a part of myself that I want to always present.
Yes, hold the pose,
Right?
honey.
Right, hold the pose. And also like, you know, what was, and we've discussed this too, like codependence and bhakti are like,
Ooh, slippery slope.
because oh, wait a minute. I'm part of a spiritual tradition now where I get to serve. Oh, and you're gonna
Ooh, you're
validate me
codependent.
because of
Your
my
people.
service?
Yes, I get to hide behind my servants.
I get to
people please.
over serve, and people are gonna think it's yes. And this is not like that. So what I found so compelling about meeting you is that service too has boundaries.
Yeah.
And I love you in so many ways.
Mm.
And love you when you're on to me. And you know what I'm doing. Because you know, I think one of the things as like codependence and like, you can tell me if addicts, you know, if other forms of addiction do this too, is you surround yourself with yes people.
Oh yeah, sure. We get people to co-sign our bullshit.
Right. Absolutely. So I had so many co-signers.
Yeah.
And those aren't friends.
Yeah, I know.
They
I
are.
know.
They
They
are.
are, but they're not enlightened yet in that way.
Yeah.
They don't have that knowledge, or they don't have that decision at that moment. So,
And I'm very fortunate that I have very good friends
yeah.
that I had for years before we met.
Mm-hmm.
And on meeting you, those friends have been like, you don't put up with bullshit anymore, Bobbie. We would always talk about not putting up with it, but then I would still put up with it.
Mm.
I mean, there's still definitely, you know, there's shades of it now, but it's not
Oh,
the
of course,
same,
of course.
not the same meter as it used to be. But, you know, having a friend like you in my life who says, Bobbie, you're about to indulge in some malignant behavior.
I remember the first time in Switzerland when that happened. I don't remember what had happened, but I had said something to you. You were about to do something where I was like, Bobbie, why? I
Yeah.
said, don't go downstairs. What was it? Do you know what it was?
I was like getting up to get something I didn't need to get for someone, that they have two legs and they can get it themselves. And yes, it was, wasn't it? And you kicked me under the table. And you said, don't. And you actually, I think what you said to me was like, don't use.
Yeah, that could be.
And that, well, you know,
It's using. You're
it's
using that to
using.
get an emotion, to get yourself people pleased, to have that endorphin, to put, I'm needed.
Exactly.
I've done service. I'm needed, and they love me and appreciate me.
Exactly.
And you don't have to get anything from me for me to love and appreciate you. I think you're one of the most wonderful people I know. And I mean that from the depths of my heart. And the more I know you, the more I love you.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way about you. You are such a gift to this world.
Oh, come on.
Hmm.
So are you.
Yeah, you know, like I used to really get off on it's like a dopamine dump. Like
Yeah,
like shit talking my ex.
sure.
Ah! You know, and
I remember that.
to a point of like, and one of my friends who's in AA said to me, you know, Bobbie, unless you're planning on doing anything with that, you're just taking a drink.
Ooh. Wow, that's dropping knowledge. That's another bhakti bitch slap.
I got Bhakti bitch slapped.
That's like, oops.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And you know, what I realized too is, you know, that oh, hey, no, sorry, that was
No worries.
my mother.
It's your mom.
My mom. So, you know, when I had said like I wanted to keep that part of myself private because I thought it was like ugly and unhealed, and you know, when really like Bhakti welcomes our whole self. Like
Absolutely.
the
It's us that
totality.
don't. It's us that don't.
We don't, you know, and I've got, you know, get to go back to India and frequently, and I get to take my daughter and I get to like watch her be herself.
Yeah.
And I, you know, sometimes bare knuckle it because one, I don't want her to be a people pleaser. And two, I have to resist the urge of wanting her to fall in line.
Yeah. That's the balance, isn't it?
Woo! And it's like, it's a big thing because she's amazing. And she has this like very full person, like she just like walks up to Radhanath Swami. Like
I
it's nothing,
know.
you know, bag of potato chips in her hand. Here you go, Maharaj, it's prasad.
You want a chip?
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know Radhanath Swami only eats food that's prepared by monks. He doesn't eat a potato chip handed to him by a 6-year-old with dirty hands. Like he looks at her and he takes it and he eats it in front of her, and like people are dropping jaws around there. They're just like,
I wasn't there. What happened? I didn't see that. Was this year?
Raghu's birthday,
year?
and Mara had brought Frankie a bag of potato chips because they went to Mumbai for the day. And
Oh my
Frankie was
goodness.
walking around thinking like she was something with
The
this
best thing since sliced bread, honey. I got the chips.
I got
and you ain't got no chips.
And she just pulls out one, and it's like a, you know, like one of those, like just like one of those perfect potato chips. And she goes, oh, I'm gonna go give this to Maharaj. And I went, oh, okay. Like, I didn't even think she was gonna do it. And she just like walks up like, "Ah," you know,
And
and
did he
it
take
was,
it and eat it?
and he ate it right in
Well,
front of
did
me.
he?
That was
Well, he
such-
knows that that was an offering from a child with love.
yes. Yeah.
How beautiful is that?
So beautiful. You know, and when I first saw him this year, it's funny, you know, like he sees so many people,
Mm, he does.
so many people. I mean, I've probably interfaced with him less than 20 times, if that. Maybe less, maybe 15 or less.
Mhm.
I've had, you know, maybe 100 words with him,
In entirety, yes.
entirety. And the first time I saw him at GEV this year, he looked at me and he said, "You've been through so much,
Oh.
and now it's just time to be happy."
Oh. Was that this time when we were there?
Mm-hmm. And then he hit Frankie on the head with a speed bump.
You know what he said to me when he saw me?
Mhm.
Jiva, I just want you to be happy. Because I came to him with tears in my eyes, thinking I was the biggest loser in the whole world. You know?
Yeah. But it's not what he sees.
No, he doesn't, does he?
No, it's not. You know, and
So,
then
go ahead. Sorry.
uh the only thing I wanted to tie into that was when I said like I didn't want to be seen like not my best self in front of, you know, Krishna,
Mhm.
anybody really. Um
Which is so
Frankie,
ridiculous. That's where we should be in front of
right,
the people we trust and love and Krishna. That's where we should come and say, help,
help
I'm
me.
Draupadi.
Totally. And, you know, we'd have these lovely exchanges with Ramaswamy, you know, having this wonderful time at the GEB. And then sort of behind the scenes one day, Frankie and I we'll get into it, you know. We're both like, it's like power struggle, battle royale
Yeah.
between her and I at this
Oh,
moment.
Frankie, she's a little Leo. I mean,
She's a Leo, man. She will take me down in a blaze of glory if she can, you know.
she's a Leo. She is
She's
a
a
Leo.
Leo. And so I was like, you know, kind of I was trying to take control of a situation that it wasn't a situation to take control. It was actually time to drop the rope and be like, neither of us are going to win right now.
Mm,
Let's take a minute. But I didn't. I kept going. We're having this like, you know, I'm sort of like not towering over her, but like I'm not kneeling down at her level, getting up
yes,
high, right? I'm asserting myself as the grown-up.
you're buffing. You're
I'm
buffing.
buffing. I'm
Yeah,
buffing a little.
yeah.
And I'm buffing and I'm buffing, and then I look and I am being watched.
Oh no.
And instantly I just felt like it was like a sucker punch.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And Ramaswamy walks over and he said, "What is going on here?"
Oh, you
And,
told me
and
this.
oh yeah, and I had just like dropped my eyes. I drop mine, and Frankie does this and looks like it was like I dropped my eye.
you,
She looks up.
you dropped the eyes, she raised the eyes.
Yeah, it was like it's so funny when you like kind of like look back and see these moments, right? And she looks at Ramaswamy and she goes, "I'm getting a talking to."
So Frankie.
So Frankie. And he goes, "Oh, okay." And then he looks at me and I like can barely raise my eyes. And he goes, "You know, mothers have to do that sometimes. You know that, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I know." And and he says to Frankie, um, "I want you to know that I believe you, though." I believe your fight.
I believe what?
Your fight. I believe what you're fighting for, or something like that.
Oh,
Like, I believe what you're
okay.
fighting for. I believe you, Frankie. And he said, I also believe your mom. You're both right, and you're both wrong.
Wow.
And I just like, I am like, and then I have like hot tears.
Oh,
And he's like, it's okay. And he said something like, you're both like, something to the effect of like, you're both doing your job.
wow.
And then he's like, I'm gonna go now and let you two sort this
He's like, no, I'm out of here. I've dropped my pearls of wisdom and now I'm out of
Yeah.
here.
And like, but then Frankie looked at me and she goes, he believed me.
Oh,
And I said, yeah, I did. And I believe you too. And she said, and I believe you. And I was like, are we done? And she's like, yeah, we're done.
wow. He's so powerful. Sometimes it's like the more I hear these stories, like the more it just it's crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So, I mean, it was bhakti a spoonful at a time, and belief a spoonful at a time, and layer by layer of
Cloak by
behaviors that,
cloak.
yeah, that
Toe
didn't
shoe for toe shoes by toe shoes.
shoe, person, place, or thing that dismantles my
That's the
life,
word.
without me looking, to like, yeah, it's definitely done a number on like my uh, trust issues.
Sure.
But I guess it's not trust issues, it's actually looking like fully absorbing a situation before I say yes or no, where I would just be like, yes, you
Yes.
like me, let's do this,
Yes,
So,
totally. Well, it's the maturity of assessing a situation in
yeah,
a frame of mind which is sober.
yeah,
And that's what we need to do often, instead of jumping into something without thinking. I mean, Raghu and I speak about this all the time. We're often ready, aim. We're not ready, aim, shoot. We're ready, shoot, and then we aim. And
right, like,
that's never good, like, ah.
yeah,
So, yeah. So I'm so grateful that you came on today, and I would love to have
so
more conversations with you. It was really nice. It was really nice and such a deep personal talk that we got to share with people. I hope you're okay with that.
I'm
Give me
fine
your
with
okay.
it. I mean, it's so long. I'm sorry that it's so long, everybody.
Shut up.
Look at me trying to make it okay for you. Ah!
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Stop right now. Sit down. This was fantastic.
Um,
So
but
I'm looking forward to having another conversation because this story is not done.
the story's not done.
The story of Baba is not
Story.
done.
Every time we go, there's a store in the US, it's called Five Below. And it has, it's basically like everything below $5. It's like, a step up from a dollar store, but not quite. But they have a lot of SpongeBob stuff in there. And every time he's like, look at that, Jiva would love that. Look at that, Jiva would love that.
I'm the here like the that's a whole nother story about SpongeBob, my material idol hero. I love him.
You love,
Just love SpongeBob.
but
All
I have
right,
so
hon.
much gratitude for you. I
Ugh,
mean, for what you do in my life, the presence that you have in Frankie's life is like what you've given me you've given me different lenses to see her.
hmm,
Do you know how like knowing you has changed my parenting?
I don't know that, but I'm so happy to hear that.
Changed my parenting. Changed my approach with her because of you.
Well,
I'm a
it's only
better
because,
parent. I'm a better parent because I know you.
well, it's also because I have a program. It's the program that's talking, and it's Radha Swami, and it's all the mercy that I get from God. That's what it is. I know that. Otherwise, I'm just one of those rinky dinky cans behind the just married car. Clank, clank, clank.
Nothing rinky dink about you. There's nothing rinky dink.
Oh. All right, hon. Thank you
Fine.
so much for coming on again. I love you, and let's do this again.
Yeah, let's.
Haribol. Thank you so much for sharing so honestly and open.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This concludes another episode. Thanks for listening. In order for me to serve this community to the best of my ability, I welcome feedback. Please write your feedback at bhaktirecoverypodcast@gmail.com. That's bhaktirecoverypodcast@gmail.com. Also, please don't forget to follow and give us a 5-star rating. Share this with family and friends. If you'd like to join our Bhakti Recovery community or just find out what we're all about, please visit our website at www.bhaktirecoverygroup.com. That's www.bhaktirecoverygroup.com. There are no dues or fees, and we meet daily. If you or someone you know is struggling with addictions and/or associated behaviors, you will find links in our show notes to various 12-step programs. Nobody seeking recovery need ever be alone again.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.